It was a cold, biting early morning in November 1994 in the quiet, unassuming neighborhoods of Nottingham. This is a city known for its rich history, its resilient people, and for one man, a man whose life was woven into the very fabric of the community. His name was Ethsham Ul-Haq Ghafoor, and this is the story of his family, his dreams, and the taxi that would never be driven again. Ethsham, just 26 years old, was the kind of man who defined hard work. A dedicated taxi driver, he was a familiar and welcome face to many in Nottingham. He was more than just a driver. He was a husband, a friend, and a doting father to a 5-year-old son. His wife was expecting their second child, a baby daughter who would be born just months later, a daughter who would never know her father's embrace. That night, Ethsham began his shift like any other. The familiar rumble of his black and white Ford Sierra was a comforting sound on the dark streets. He ferried passengers, made small talk, and watched the fare meter tick up. Each pound earned a step toward the future he was building for his family. But as the clock ticked past 2:40 a.m., a routine pickup in Carlton Square marked the beginning of the end. The ride he accepted would be his last. The route should have been simple, a standard drop-off, another fare logged, and then the comforting thought of heading home. But the night took a dark and violent turn. The next piece of the puzzle came from the cold, unblinking eye of a CCTV camera. The footage, grainy and dark, showed Ghafoor's Ford Sierra. Inside with him were 3 unidentified men. This was the last known sighting of him alive. After that, there was only silence. Hours crept by. The darkness of the night gave way to the pale, gray light of dawn, and then a grim discovery. A milkman, on his early morning rounds, stumbled upon a scene that would haunt him forever. Ghafoor's taxi, abandoned at Lambley Lane Playing Fields in Jedlingham, isolated, desolate spot, far from the usual routes, a place no taxi would have reason to be in the dead of night. The scene inside the car was one of calculated brutality. Ghafoor's body was in the driver's seat, his hands bound to the steering wheel. He had been shot, a single, fatal wound. Police would later describe it as an executioner killing that was planned, cold-blooded, and ruthlessly efficient. There were no signs of a struggle, no chaotic shootout, no desperate fight for life. Just the chilling stillness of a man robbed of his future. The murder weapon was never found, and witnesses were nowhere to be seen. The only clue was the grainy image of those 3 men, their faces obscured by the poor quality of the footage. They were ghosts, phantoms, who had shared the final moments of Ghafoor's life. As senior detectives descended on the crime scene, a wave of shock and fear rippled through Nottingham. This wasn't just another crime. It was an attack on a man simply doing his job, a man who was part of the city's heartbeat. The execution-style killing of a taxi driver in his own cab struck a deep and resonant nerve. Friends, family, and fellow taxi drivers spoke of Ethsham's kindness, his unwavering work ethic, and the bright future he had planned. His 5-year-old son and his unborn daughter became tragic symbols of a family's stolen happiness, their lives forever fractured by an act of senseless violence. The police launched a massive murder inquiry. They appealed to the public for information, reviewed endless hours of CCTV from every possible route, and painstakingly pieced together Ghafoor's final journey. But the investigation hit a wall of silence. Leads dried up. People who might have known something were too afraid to speak. The CCTV footage was too grainy for a positive identification, and the forensic evidence, the tiny microscopic fragments that could have linked a suspect to the scene, yielded nothing. The case, once a top priority, grew cold. For decades, it sat in a dusty file, a chilling monument to one of Nottingham's most baffling and tragic murders. The years passed. Anniversaries came and went. The world moved on, but for Ghafoor's family, time stood still. The questions lingered, unanswered, echoing in the silence. Was this a random act of violence, or was it a targeted killing? Were the 3 men just passengers, or did they represent something far more sinister, a connection to the city's criminal underworld? And the most crucial question of all, who pulled the trigger, and why? Then, As the 30th anniversary of that fateful morning approached, a new development sent fresh ripples of hope and anticipation through the city. Detectives, armed with new technology and a renewed determination, reopened the case. In late 2024, a collaboration with Crime Stoppers was announced, offering a staggering £50,000 reward for any information leading to a conviction. It was a bold move, a final, desperate attempt to break the decades-long wall of silence. Investigators began the painstaking process of re-examining every piece of evidence with modern forensic techniques. Tools that were the stuff of science fiction in 1994 were now being used to unlock the secrets of the past. Advanced DNA analysis, digital enhancement of the grainy CCTV footage, and new methods of forensic profiling offered a glimmer of hope. These were the techniques that had solved countless cold cases around the world, and now they were being brought to bear on the murder of Ethsham Ghafoor. But even with all the advancements in technology, the case remains unsolved. The key, detectives believe, lies not in the lab, but in the memories of those who were there that night. The smallest detail of forgotten conversation, a passing car, a face in the crowd, could be the final piece of the puzzle. Ghafoor's family and friends have never given up their search for answers. They have become tireless advocates for justice, their voices a constant reminder of a life cut short. Reward posters adorn the windows of local cafes, bus stops, and community centers. Online forums buzz with discussions as a new generation, born long after the murder, learns of the case and the lingering stain it has left on their city's soul. What began as a normal night behind the wheel of a taxi ended in a murder that has spanned 3 decades of unanswered questions. A man's life was taken, a family was shattered, and a city was forced to confront the chilling reality that a killer may still walk among them. But with the reopening of the case, there is a renewed sense of hope that justice, even after all these years, is still within reach. The story of Ethsham Ghafoor is not just a story of a crime. It is a story of a family's enduring love, a community's unwavering support, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Subscribe to Criminal Verse, where every crime hides a story. Following the discovery of Ethsham Ul-Haq Ghafoor's lifeless body in the abandoned taxi at Lambley Lane Playing Fields, detectives launched an intense and immediate investigation, combing through CCTV footage from surrounding streets, traffic cameras, and even private residences in an attempt to track the movements of the mysterious 3 men last seen with him, while interviewing every witness, neighbor, and colleague who might have insight into the events of that fateful night. Forensic teams meticulously analyzed the cab, searching for fingerprints, fibers, and trace DNA. But in 1994, the technology was limited, leaving only tantalizing clues that hinted at premeditation and professional execution rather than a spontaneous crime, fueling theories that this was either a revenge attack, an organized robbery, or possibly a dispute linked to Nottingham's underworld that had infiltrated the most ordinary of settings, a driver simply doing his job at the wrong moment, whose routine life had collided with the sinister world of opportunistic criminals. Investigators documented the last known locations and interviewed anyone who had seen Ghafoor during the evening, including cab company dispatchers who remembered his check-ins and fare requests, reconstructing a timeline with painstaking detail, while the media amplified the story across Nottingham and the UK, presenting photos of Ghafoor, pleas from grieving family members, and calls to the public for any information, drawing nationwide attention to the case as a symbol of random yet calculated violence that could strike anyone, anywhere, even in broad daylight, or in familiar neighborhoods, heightening public fear and sympathy, which only increased the scrutiny on local authorities to solve the murder. Over the years, despite multiple suspects being brought in for questioning, none were formally charged, and the case became a notorious cold file passed through the hands of various officers, detectives, and cold case units. Yet new investigative techniques over time allowed forensic scientists to revisit the evidence with modern DNA profiling, digital enhancement of old CCTV footage, and the use of national and international criminal databases, sparking a renewed wave of hope that the person responsible could be identified and brought to justice even decades after the crime, while families, friends, and taxi associations kept the memory of Ghafoor alive, organizing awareness campaigns, holding candlelight vigils, and leveraging social media to crowdsource leads, all in the pursuit of closure, justice, and preventing such tragedies from recurring, highlighting not only the human cost but also systemic challenges in policing, surveillance, and community safety. In late 2024, Nottinghamshire Police announced a £50,000 reward via Crime Stoppers for information, leading to a conviction, a move that reignited public attention and media coverage. While detectives reviewed old witness statements, compared them against new forensic insights, and sought to match partial fingerprints, fibers, and DNA fragments against modern databases focusing on potential suspects. Known in criminal circles during the 1990s, analyzing patterns, prior offenses, and even geographical profiling to narrow down possible escape routes and locations where the murder weapon might have been discarded. Every discovery, however small, was scrutinized for connections, patterns, or inconsistencies, because in cold cases like this one, overlooked detail can solve decades of mystery. Community involvement became pivotal. Local taxi drivers shared their experiences, noting suspicious fares or behaviors that had previously gone unreported, while historians of crime and investigative journalists compiled timelines and theories, presenting documentaries, podcasts, and news segments that kept Ghafoor's story in the public eye, ensuring that momentum remained for solving the case while family members, especially as children, grew up in a world where the father they never got to fully know became a symbol of the fragility of life, the randomness of violence, and the enduring need for justice. Psychologists and criminal profilers added insight into the likely mindset of the perpetrator, speculating whether the murder was opportunistic, rage-driven, or carefully orchestrated to avoid detection, emphasizing behavioral patterns that could guide investigators toward specific suspects or social networks involved in the Nottingham crime scene of the 1990s, while also advising law enforcement on interrogation and evidence evaluation strategies tailored to cold cases where witnesses' memories fade and physical evidence deteriorates over decades. This psychological profiling suggests that the individuals involved likely had prior experience with violence as the act of binding. A victim to a steering wheel demonstrates a chilling level of control and a desire to send a specific message to the community or the industry. As the years stretched into decades, the investigative focus expanded to include the social dynamics of the era, looking into whether shifts in the local narcotics trade or changes in taxi regulation could have provided a backdrop for such a brutal act, leading researchers to examine old police logs for similar, though perhaps less lethal, incidents involving taxi drivers during that period. Every anniversary of the murder brought renewed media coverage, as investigators released statements, revisited old interviews, and appealed to anyone with information, emphasizing that even decades-old crimes could be solved, especially with the assistance of modern technology and community engagement, illustrating the evolution of forensic science from the 1990s to today, and the importance of persistence, analytical thinking, and public cooperation in achieving justice. The case also prompted deep reflections on the safety of lone workers, sparking debates in local councils about the implementation of better GPS tracking and panic buttons in public hire vehicles, technologies that Ethsham never had the chance to use. Today, as Nottinghamshire Police continue to investigate the story more accurately, the Nottingham case of Ethsham Ghafoor serves as both a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of ordinary citizens and a testament to the relentless pursuit of truth by law enforcement, forensic experts, journalists, and community members alike, who refuse to let a brutal, unsolved crime fade into obscurity, proving that the passage of time may challenge justice, but it does not erase the quest for it. The persistence of the Ghafoor family has been the heartbeat of this entire saga. Their refusal to accept silence has forced the hand of progress, ensuring that the file was never truly buried under the weight of newer, more immediate crimes. With every new lead, every revisit of forensic material, and every witness statement re-examined, the case remains alive in public consciousness and criminal investigation circles, keeping the hope that one day, a suspect will finally be identified, arrested, and held accountable, so that Ghafoor's family can achieve closure, the city can regain a sense of safety, and the story can stand as a testament to the enduring need for justice, vigilance, and remembrance. Furthermore, the impact of this case on the legal landscape cannot be overstated, as it became a primary example used by advocates for better witness protection programs and the incentivization of breaking the code of silence. In tight-knit communities, where fear often outweighs the civic duty to report, the £50,000 reward represents more than just money. It is a symbol of the state's admission that the truth is out there, trapped in the memories of those who have aged alongside this mystery. In the digital age, the criminal verse surrounding Ethsham Ghafoor has expanded into online forums, where armchair detectives and professional investigators exchange data points, hoping that a single digital breadcrumb might lead to the door of the killers. The narrative of that November night is no longer just a local tragedy. It is a global study in the tenacity of human hope and the sophisticated tools of modern criminology. As we look toward the final resolution of this case, we are reminded that no crime is ever truly perfect. As long as the memory of the victim is preserved and the scientific methods used to find their killer continue to sharpen. Behind every cold case is a human life lost, a family broken, and a story that refuses to end until the final word is written in a court of law. We wait for the moment when the silence of the Lambley Lane Playing Fields is finally broken by the sound of handcuffs, closing a sound 30 years in the making. Subscribe to Criminal Verse, where every crime hides a story.